In the history of boxing, going back decades, there is a very specific argument that gets made every time a smaller fighter tries to move up in weight. The argument goes like this: the skills transfer, the IQ transfers, the technique transfers, but the chin doesn't. Because at the upper weight classes, the punching power reaches a level where no amount of footwork or ring intelligence fully protects you. One punch, one bad angle, one fraction of a second where you're not quite where you need to be, and it's over. This argument has been proven correct more times than it has been proven wrong. There is a graveyard of talented, skilled, technically gifted fighters who moved up in weight and got found out the moment they ran into someone who could genuinely hurt them. When Oleksandr Usyk announced he was moving from undisputed cruiserweight champion to the heavyweight division in 2019, that argument was waiting for him at the door. This is part 2 of the Usyk dynasty, and what you are about to watch, and across 2 fights, 2 years, and 1 stadium full of people who were absolutely certain this man was going to lose, is the complete and total destruction of that argument forever. October 12th, 2019, Chicago, Illinois. Usyk's heavyweight debut, his opponent, Chazz Witherspoon, a legitimate heavyweight on a solid win streak who had the size, the experience, and every natural advantage that a heavyweight brings against a former cruiserweight. Witherspoon talked before the fight, said Usyk was stepping into a world he didn't understand. And to be fair, that's what everyone expected to find out, because talk is cheap in boxing, but size and punching power are very real. Usyk stopped him in the 7th round. Different world, same result. A year later, October 31st, 2020, Wembley Arena, London. Usyk versus Derek Chisora. Now Chisora is a completely different test from Witherspoon. He doesn't rely on one punch. He is physical, relentless, suffocating. The kind of heavyweight who makes every single round uncomfortable because he never stops coming at you. He had gone 12 rounds with some of the best heavyweights in the world and never been stopped. Usyk handled him by unanimous decision over 12 rounds, controlled the space, neutralized the pressure, won every phase of the fight with the kind of composure you'd expect from a man who had spent years at the elite level doing exactly this against elite competition. 2 fights in the heavyweight division, 2 completely different styles of opponent, 2 wins, 1 by stoppage, 1 by unanimous decision, and a message sent quietly but clearly to every heavyweight paying attention: this man belongs here. Anthony Joshua. Let's be clear about who this man is before we talk about what happened. 6'6", 240 pounds, 2012 Olympic gold medalist. The same Olympics where Usyk won his gold, by the way, though in different weight classes. 2-time unified heavyweight champion of the world, holding the WBA, IBF, WBO, and IBO titles. A man who had beaten Vladimir Klitschko in one of the most memorable heavyweight fights of the decade. A man who had been knocked down and stopped by Andy Ruiz Jr. and then came back with one of the most intelligent, disciplined performances of his career to reclaim those belts. Joshua was not a manufactured champion. He was not a product of easy opponents and careful matchmaking. He was the real thing, a legitimate, proven, battle-tested heavyweight champion with elite physical gifts and the mental fortitude to come back from a devastating loss. And when the Usyk fight was announced, the reaction in the boxing world was genuinely mixed. Not because people disrespected Usyk, but because the matchup on paper was almost unfair. Joshua had 6 inches of height on Usyk, nearly 20 pounds of weight, home advantage at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, the crowd, the momentum, the belts. Everything except one thing, the thing that has decided every single fight in this man's career: ring intelligence, and the will to use it under maximum pressure. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, London, England, September the 25th, 2021. 66,267 people in that stadium. The overwhelming majority of them were there specifically to watch Anthony Joshua defend his titles and send this cruiserweight back to where they felt he belonged. The atmosphere was electric in the way that only British boxing nights can be. The energy was one-sided. The noise was one-sided. The expectation in that building was completely one-sided. And then Usyk walked to the ring, and from the very first second of round 1, you could tell this was going to be different from what that crowd had paid to see. Round 1. Usyk doesn't come out cautious. He walks out and immediately establishes his movement, not retreating, but moving with purpose, laterally, changing levels, feinting to make Joshua commit, then stepping off the line before the punch arrives. Joshua threw his jab and it kept landing on air. He threw his right hand and Usyk was already somewhere else. Rounds 2 through 6, Joshua tried to make it physical physical. He used his size to clinch, to hold, to slow the rhythm down. There were moments, particularly in round 5 and 6, where Joshua landed some clean shots and the crowd came alive. Those were the rounds that kept his team hopeful at ringside, but every time Joshua took control of a round, Usyk reset, pivoted, started the chess match from a new position. He was never hurt, never panicked. He absorbed Joshua's best work and kept moving. And then came the championship rounds. Round 11, round 12. The rounds where the entire story of a heavyweight fight gets written. Joshua was exhausted. His feet stopped moving cleanly. His combinations became single shots. His output dropped to almost nothing. He was in survival mode in his own arena, in front of his own crowd, against a man the whole world said was too small for this division. Usyk was not exhausted. He was still moving, still accurate, still throwing combinations in the final seconds of round 12 that snapped Joshua's head back with the same authority as round 1. Unanimous decision. Oleksandr Usyk, new WBA Super, IBF, WBO, and IBO heavyweight champion of the world. The crowd went quiet in a way that only happens when something nobody expected actually comes true. And in the center of that ring, surrounded by silence where noise had been, Usyk stood with 4 championship belts and tears on his face. Not from relief, from purpose, because this was never just about the belts. It was about proving that the argument was wrong, that the logic didn't hold, that a man built the right way, mentally, technically, physically, could walk into any division in boxing and win. Joshua invoked his rematch clause. Fair, a split. Wait, this was a unanimous decision. So Joshua's team requested a rematch based on the closeness of certain rounds and their belief that the game plan had been wrong. A rematch was granted, and honestly, boxing needed it. Because every time an established name loses to someone unexpected, the sport needs a second chapter to settle the debate. Jeddah Superdome, Saudi Arabia, August 20th, 2022. Joshua arrived with genuine improvements. New trainer in Robert Garcia, a lower, more compact stance designed to remove the height and reach advantages Usyk had exploited. He came in heavier, 244 pounds, committed to making it a more physical, grinding fight. He had studied the first fight obsessively. He knew every mistake he'd made and he'd spent months fixing them. And for the first few rounds, the adjustments worked. Joshua was more disciplined, more patient. The new stance took away some of Usyk's angles. He was competitive in rounds 1 through 3 in a way he hadn't been in the first fight. His corner was encouraged. The crowd, another huge pro-Joshua audience in Saudi Arabia, was alive. Round 4. Usyk began to adjust. By round 6, he had solved a new version of Joshua. By round 8, he was back in control. By the championship rounds, it was the same story as the first fight. Usyk fresher, more accurate, more dangerous. Except this time against a better prepared opponent, which made it more impressive. All 3 judges scored it 116 to 112. Unanimous. Clear. Usyk, 2 fights, 2 wins over the same man. The second time against a fully adjusted, fully prepared, fully motivated version of that man. There were no excuses left on the table, no asterisks, no alternate realities. The debate was settled. 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, 2 wins over Anthony Joshua, one of the best heavyweights of this era, the undisputed cruiserweight crown still on his resume, the Olympic gold still on his legacy, and there was still one man left, one undefeated fighter who had never, in his entire professional career, been beaten, a man who had survived knockdowns, personal demons, 3 years away from the sport and the best heavyweights in the world, and was still standing. Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King. That fight, those 2 fights, are what part 3 is about, and I'll tell you right now, everything we built across parts 1 and 2 was leading to those nights in Riyadh. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, come find us on Facebook every single day. Facebook at Knockout Kings Elite. Drop a comment right now. Did Usyk fully convince you across those 2 Joshua fights, or did you still have doubts going into the Fury fight? I want to hear it.